anytime a thought is guiding us to be more than what we've been, anytime you get a thought to serve, to lead, to inspire, to help someone become even better, especially yourself, that's an anointed thought. That's something that's been given to you by a future version of you that knows it is done. Our role is to catch up to that reality, right? It's like we think, oh, I need to create it. No, your role is to catch up to it. It's done.
Hello and welcome to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and as the founder of the Bold Life Movement and a fellow coach for more than 7 years, I know the challenges that many of you face when launching or growing your coaching business. And I'm here to pull back the curtain on the coaching industry and help you overcome roadblocks to make the impact you were born to make. Each week, I'll be interviewing successful coaches from every corner of the industry to share exactly how they have managed to generate massive impact and income. From strategy to psychology, we cover it all. This show is presented to you by Transformation Academy, a global marketplace of courses and coaching certifications. So whether you are already part of our epic community or you're brand new to this show, if you're ready to learn what it takes to turn your passion for service into a profitable business, then keep listening. You are in the right place. What a powerful interview I have for you guys today. Today's guest is super special to me. It's one of my favorite coaches I've ever hired and a dear friend to the Transformation Academy community. Her name is Emily Rivera, and she's best known as the Angel Coach. And in today's interview, Emily does what she does best, which is let the angels speak through her. We talk about everything from what it means to tap into your feminine core and embody what she calls the feminine code, and how that allows you to actually create from nothing, and what it will be to heal the world using this power. And we even talk about how to marry the parts of yourself that consciously want things with the parts of yourself that unconsciously block them, and what to do with the parts of you and the patterns that you play out that you resist, how to actually heal them and transmute them. It's an incredibly powerful interview, and Emily is very gracious. She's offering a 50% off discount code to anyone in the TA community who feels called to her Divine Feminine Code event coming up in just a week or so. So if this event calls to you, if this interview speaks to you, I would love to hear from you over on Instagram at the Kimberly Rich. I really love hearing what your takeaways are from these interviews, and today's is particularly powerful. I even get a little emotional in it, guys. So without further ado, please welcome the one and only Emily Rivera. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Profitable Coach Podcast. I have with me today someone who I consider to be very special, my former coach, Miss Emily Rivera, also known as the Angel Coach.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kimberly. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah. So if you've been in the Transformation Academy family for a while, then you might be familiar with Emily's face. She's intimately connected with the community, and she is actually how I came to be connected to the Transformation Academy community. And I like to think that it's just another example of the power of collaboration, connection, putting yourself out there. And so I'm curious what other beautiful opportunities have come into your world from the TA community, and then we'll follow up with other ways that you've collaborated and done JVs in your career.
Oh, wow. There's so much, right, that has been part of that community. It's interesting, right? Because the angels are saying for me to say, highlight the soul family. Like, I feel like in so many ways, whether it's been through other coaches that are creating training and certifications, or even just people who feel inspired to connect with me through the certifications and the programs, it's as if there is this, I'm audibly hearing like this coming home, right? Coming home of like actually meeting people, whether it's students, whether it's other coaches, like, oh, wow, I feel at home with this person. Right? Because it makes sense. That's why we all feel drawn to the community. And that's why we all feel drawn to the content and what is being inspired and awakened as we say yes to our missions and our purpose. It's as if we're coming home to each other and kind of reflecting back to each other. It's like, of course we're meeting here, right? Because we all have the intention, the desire, the calling, right, to be of service in bigger ways. So that's been a beautiful highlight of this whole community, and that continues to evolve and continue to grow, just like meeting you, right? It's like soul family.
Yeah. And one cool thing that I don't even think I've shared with you, at the beginning of this year, one of my 2 words for the year was quantum. And for me, it really felt like playing in the quantum, putting my energy in the quantum field, creating shifts from an internal place rather than like pushing on the external world. And then very shortly after the year began, the work that I had been doing ended quite abruptly, and almost overnight, Transformation Academy was introduced to me, and the program was called Quantum Leap. And I was like, okay, Spirit, like I'm with you. And the other word was bloom. And it really felt like at the other position that I was in for about a year, I was wilting. That was what my team member said. She's like, you're wilting here. You need to go bloom. And I was like, okay, Spirit, I'm listening. So I just think that that's such a cool coincidence, which wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for you and your introduction. So thank you.
Oh, well, I am honored and grateful. And of course, when the opportunity aligned itself, it's like, I know the right person. This is like the best connection. This is going to align. And of course it has, and it did, and it continues to. So
yeah, I love that. So we were talking about collaborations and, working with a company like TA, but you are always working with someone else. Will you tell people who aren't familiar with your work what you mean when you say the angels are talking?
Yes. So since I was a child, I'm known as the angel coach, which by the way was guided and audibly given by the angels. They invited me to call myself the angel coach. And what that means is that I am very grateful to celebrate that the angels, what I call manifestations of love, that which you call infinite intelligence, is my daily companion. But it's also a reminder to you and all of us, right, that that's a companionship. Sorry, they're correcting me because they're audibly saying union. It's a union that is available to us, all of us, not just me because I see and hear it. No, it's a union that, thank you, that is communicating, guiding, supporting, providing, and loving us, all of us. And what I get to do is offer that communication, offer that connection, offer that reminder that all of us have this access to guidance, to support, to, thank you. They're audibly saying delivery into what it is we are seeking, right? That there is these beautiful embodiments of love that want to offer us all that we seek, but beyond what we're seeking, right? So that we can see that there's more out there that we can have access to, thank you, play with, explore, and become outside of what we've known before. So when you say those companions, yes, so I've been very blessed to play with them, to be talking to them, to be creating with them, to be healing with them. Ooh, energy moved to that when I said healing. Wow, to healing with that, right? And I think I'm going to go back to that because that didn't happen on accident. So those of you that are listening, so sometimes energy will move and it'll come out as a burp or like that. It's like I feel the pushback, and it's not even a pushback. It's as if like I'm recognizing movement that not only supports me, but the listeners, right? Those that are being inspired to listen and be present to this. And they've guided me my whole journey. I went through a process of forgetting when my daughter's disabilities were very extreme. And it was the most intense, challenging time, because in my forgetting, I really got to see what happens in the illusion of separation and the illusion that I'm doing life alone and the illusion that there is all this doing that must get taken care of for something to happen or that we're hoping to happen. And through that process and through that journey, it was as if I came home. I got a chance to come home. And in my forgetting and in my own healing of forgetting, it became miracle after miracle of seeing what does happen, the quantums, right? The quantum leaps that do happen when we get to step into remembering the support that we have available to us. One of the things that I am reminded over and over, that one of the biggest fallacies in humans is that we forget and we don't recognize how we are destined and designed to receive. Like if we could really see, it would be overwhelming than the experience of it. And then going back to this healing, that in a bigger collective way, we're all going through many transitions. Thank you. And we're going through, through levels of healing that sometimes are in the known, right? We're very clearly like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's healing. There's transitions here. I'm overcoming this. I am moving past this. And then there's also healing that's occurring or wanting to occur beyond the consciousness, right? That's helping us avoid challenges along the way. That's helping us to step into other possibilities that we're kind of like not yet saying yes to, but being encouraged to say yes to, right? Because there's so much deliciousness on the other side, outside of what we've known. And that there's these, thank you, they're audibly saying, it's like life constantly is trying to offer us a redirection. And sometimes they come through what seems unfair. But in the unfair and in these other ways that it can show up, it's like there is an invitation to wake out of the hypnosis, out of that part of us that has been not choosing or consciously deciding to see the best that is available to us in our receiving. So yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I have to tell you, throughout the whole time that you were talking, I was belching. And we've worked together many times. I don't remember that actually ever happening before. And it's hard because I feel like on both a micro level, like what's going on in my personal life, which we talked a little bit about offline, and on a macro level, there is so much being transmuted. And so everything that you were sharing just hit so deeply. And I can't imagine that I'm the only one. I hallucinate that there are plenty of listeners right now who are like, wow, I really needed that validation and I needed that reminder. And so for anyone who's listening and doesn't have an immediate, obvious connection with spirit, especially not maybe audibly, what advice would you give to them to find something so that they can move beyond that illusion of separation?
So they're showing me two things, right? It's interesting. I don't know if they're doing it because I was just looking at wishing papers for my event. There's going to be like a manifesting creative tool we're going to step into that the angels are teaching, and I don't know if they're using that for that reason. So 1 second. Yes. So got it. So they are wanting to talk about this because they're showing me the wishing paper, and then they're showing me, the dandelions, how you blow on them and how they kind of go everywhere. It's like we've forgotten to understand, and thank you. We've forgotten the power of deciding what we want. And I know all of us are like, oh yeah, I know what I want. I'm choosing this, I'm doing that. But it's like we make a decision and then we go into our next day and then we unconsciously are hitting replay and choosing what we had yesterday and the day before and the week before. And it's like the same people, the same stories, the same circumstances. And even though there's nothing wrong with that, but so many of us know we've outgrown it, right? So many of us know that the discomfort, the pain, the ache, they're calling it the tragedy, is just because there's a replay button that is taking place and you're like, why is this happening, right? It doesn't make sense. We see it in our world right now. Why is this happening? Why is this pain? Why is this chaos? Because on a collective level, we are hitting replay over and over and over with the same stories, and even just personally with the same stories. And what they're showing me, this wishing, it's like taking time to daily be in this communication, right? So even if you're not hearing it, even if you're not seeing the visions, it's about consciously making that, thank you, they're saying, taking that practical step that has you being open to the communication and understanding that one thing, I love that, yes, every question gets answered, every thought gets responded to, everything always gets addressed. But what we don't understand, that what happens is like we put something out, we make a decision, we step into choosing something, and then we unconsciously move into choosing the opposite, right? We move into consciously deciding we're not worthy of it, or move into choosing and deciding that It's not time yet. Choosing that, oh, well, I need to do A, B, C, and D before this can really happen, right? So it's kind of like we're in this experience of, they're calling it separation, right? It's like there is a separation between what we want and what we don't want. And then we move into, thank you. And what we're being asked with this is like making a conscious decision every day to decide, right? And it's not about deciding to change the circumstances, right? I don't want this to change, because that's only going to focus the energy and tension to feed what's happening. But instead of choosing, this is what I want to change, is that this is what I want to create. This is what I'm welcoming in my experience, right? So if there's pain, it's not about like, I just want this pain to go away, or I want them to talk to me, or I want this to end, or I want this to, instead of choosing to change, that is about understanding that the discomfort, the angst, all this stuff is actually promoting the thoughts, the emotions, the decisions required into becoming what you're really craving. So when you decide, okay, this is, thank you, they're saying optimizing your decisions into what you want instead of what isn't working. And when you do that, there is a level of you that opens up to the dialogue, right? That communication. And I'm not just talking about dialogue with the angels and your guides and all this stuff. I'm talking about dialogues with other people as well. So telepathically, other people. So your intuition may show up in different ways, but the dialogue is happening. And what starts to unfold is that some of you may hear it like I hear it. Some of you may have thoughts, may have ideas, may have dreams, may have songs or numbers repeating themselves, or may have these synchronicities show up. And yes, all of that is part of the communication. All of that is part of the dialogue, you know, and thank you. Yes. So one thing that does happen sometimes is like we get all these different winks and then we overwrite them, right? We overwrite them. And it's interesting that you guys are saying that, because it is a very, it's a very interesting dynamic, what I'm about to say. And I know for some of you, you're like, what the heck is this, right? And I get it. All of us are designed to be creators. And if you're focusing on a thought, a vehicle, a decision, a person, a desire, if you're focusing on certain things a certain way, there will be wings that will show up to confirm the focus. Right? It's like that idea that your thoughts are all being responded to, your thoughts, your desires are all being expressed. So the way infinite substance works, the way the infinite energy works, it will find a way to respond. It can't help but do that. And then what happens, we get these signs and all these things, and we're like, well, that was it. No, that was also your creative spark calling those things forth. So it goes back to this power of deciding, you know, being in communication with the decision instead versus asking for a sign. Right.
I want to ask a somewhat practical question for, I think this is useful on like a personal level, but also for coaches who are hearing what you're saying. And there's this distinction between what our conscious mind is saying I want, and what our conscious mind is saying I believe, I trust that this is possible, I'm moving toward it, I'm taking the action. But then there's these unconscious wirings. Maybe they're from this lifetime, maybe they're from others. Maybe we're aware of the patterns and the wiring, maybe we're not even aware of them at all, but they run the show as well. How do we get them in alignment? And like, how can coaches help to make sure their clients are actually getting those things in alignment as well?
So that's a great question. And there's many ways around this. One of the biggest things that the angels, and actually talked about this in an earlier podcast today, we have to be more intentional in feeding our happy. We have to, you know, because it's not about focusing on manifesting and doing all that. No, it's about life showing up in a way that can further amplify the happy. And, you know, one of the things I do with my clients is starting with that. Where's your portal and what adds to your happy? You know, what I mean by that is that there is this access, we all have it, to add to the energy of happy. For me, sunrise, being at the beach is one of them, you know, playing music is one of them, like journaling or calling someone, or even just talking to God, they're audibly saying. That's going to resonate with some people, right? It's like just finding the micro, we think macro. We're like, well, I need to go on a trip then, or I need to do this to make me happy. No, there's like micro doses of happiness everywhere. You know, like this is simple, but the color of my nails adds to my happy.
Yeah.
Right. And when I see my nails, I'm like, I love it. I love my color. I love that color. Right. So it's like,
I love that color too. I noticed it.
Yeah. It's about like, what can you implement into your day and encourage your client to implement that adds to their happy. Like, for example, this is actually something that was part of my women's retreat. And these are called Aqua Love Notes, right? And this is a message one of the girls wrote: you are the miracle. So part of the purpose was that you write yourself a message every day, but knowing that you were encouraging a sister as you were offering a message to yourself. So you can do this with a client, you could do this with yourself, and you write these messages, right? And then you put them around, right? Like right now, I have it sitting there because every time I look at it, it makes me smile, right? Yeah. You are the miracle. Yes. So it's like adding doses of happy into your day and finding creative ways that are unique to you and unique to your client. So that's one, because in that way, consciously and unconsciously, you get to rewrite the stories that have been playing from your past in your conscious and your unconscious. That's a very simple, and yet it's kind of like overlooked. You know, it's like it's something that's overlooked. So instead of like, okay, I'm going to do affirmations every day and do all this stuff, it's like, no, moving into this decision that you are adding to your happy. They're telling me I wrote something. Hold on. I did write something on the beach, and it was with the word affirmations. And it's not about the affirmation, it's about the energy. Yes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we go into that too, right? We give our clients affirmations, or we step into affirmations and you're like, nothing's changing. I still feel like shit. I feel, unbalanced. Things aren't working out for me. So it's like, again, I know what they mean by that. It's like, it goes back into the energy. You know?
What about the activities that people think are bringing them joy, but it's really just a immediate gratification or a dopamine hit, and in the long run it's not supportive?
Yes, great question. So one of the things that I share that as you're moving into a state of discovery is adding something new to your week, maybe even every day, adding something new into your day, right? It's like finding a video maybe of a person that you admire, or a person that you've heard of, or a new audiobook to listen. It's just something new that you add into your day. Thank you. And what they're audibly saying when it comes to the neuroscience, it's a way to help create neural pathways that are different and outside the normal of your past, right?
They read my mind.
Energy to that. Yeah.
I was going to say, why? Why is that so useful?
Yeah. So anytime you create something as simple as driving to work or somebody's house in a different way, it creates that movement of something new, right? The awareness expands beyond what you know, which allows something else to come in and lead you and guide you and create miracles, right? It finds because that's what happens when we're human. It's like when we do the same thing over and over and over again, we overlook so much that's part of our space. We overlook so much of what's part of the people in front of us, right? We overlook so much of what's trying to get us to wake up, because we can't help but notice the same thing. Our brain is very, what's the word? Our brain craves, our brain craves the replay. Mm-hmm. Our brain does. Our soul craves the new. And that's for everyone. Because I've met with people, they're like, well, I'm introvert. That's not really me. No, this is not about introvert and extrovert. This is all of us. Our soul craves the new. Because our soul came here deciding, before you took that breath as a baby, decided, I am here to create and see more of what's possible. You know, another thing that I like to do, I actually said this again too in the podcast, is that this is actually something that I taught my Sacred Garden, my women's, creating a quadrant, right? And then in each quadrant being, how you want to feel, one of the quadrants, what it is that you want to see more in your life. Let's say like physical stuff that you want. Like, what are some of those things? What are your relationships and what's your mission, right? Actually, that one's more business or saying finances. And look at all those areas and choose to identify what's been happening, like what's been part of all those quadrants. And then what you're going to say and look at, when you look at everything, you literally need to take time to do the exercise, right? All these different areas and like, okay, what's been happening in the area of relationship? What's been happening in the area of consciousness? What's happening in the area of business? What's happening in the area of success, right? And looking at all those things, like what's been happening. And then what you do is like, okay, what here have I borrowed? Right? And it's not judging it, but more like, okay, you know what? I borrowed this from my mom. I borrowed this from my sibling. I borrowed this from the person, my teacher. I noticed I borrowed stuff from my aunt when I did this exercise. In the area of relationships, I borrowed stuff from my aunt, which I was like, it surprised me. And when I say this, it's like when you do the exercise, asking question, what else did I borrow? What else did I borrow? And keep asking, because as you keep asking, you get access to guidance beyond the physical, right? You get access beyond that which can be easily touched. And then our brain is such a tricky place that what it'll do is that I'll say, oh, it's this, because it's easier to cope and manage with this and actually looking further into what needs to be looked at. So when you keep asking, what else is there? Who else is hiding inside of me? What else did I borrow? And when you continue to do that, then what happens? When you're done with that, then you move into deciding what you want. Now that I've identified I borrowed all this stuff, now me as myself, what would I choose instead? And then
what do you do with that knowledge of what you borrowed?
So you make a decision. This is no longer mine. This will no longer carry me into my future. This is no longer meant to be mine. And people do different things around that, and again, depending on who I'm working with is guided differently. But sometimes it could be that you literally have to write a letter to the person. I'm choosing to no longer borrow this, and this, and this, and I choose to set you free and set myself free. Right? Or it could even they're saying you could even write it to yourself. I forgive you. I forgive you for carrying this story for so long. I forgive you for borrowing this from this person and that person. You did the best you could, right? And I surrender it, right? I just let it go. They're playing the song, I surrender all. And then what you do is that you're like, I choose to surrender. I choose to let it go. I choose to move into myself without the need to borrow from you. So it's like surrendering it and letting it go and giving it its love and setting it free. That could be through breath work. You could set it free through breath work. Like it's like you're literally breathing it out, getting it out of your body, getting out of your energy. Yes, getting out of your nervous system, they're showing me. It could be running. It's like as you're running, you're letting it go. Getting into a bath, salt water, just something. One of the biggest things that angels teach me, and this is where the fallacy lies, is that there's a lot of people that say, this is the only way. This is the way. There's many ways to an outcome. The way is not necessarily what is creating the miracle, the healing, the transmutation. It's the intention that is brought to the way. Right? The intention that's brought to the way. Because if someone, with the intention of sincerity, that is what creates the transmutation. That is what creates the miracle. That's what creates a change.
What do you think, or what do the angels think is one of the biggest blocks for people like coaches who want to be of service, but have their own set of, old wirings and blocks to really showing up in their potential?
I love that, because they're audibly saying something so good. That happens when you're trying to coach outside your mastery. A lot of times we do this with coaching. We borrow other person's coaching styles or coaching methods or what they're focusing on, their topics of coaching. We all have a unique mastery, right? And the best way to identify that mastery is looking at your history. What have you learned to overcome? What have you learned to consistently move through and get to and deliver in your own life. Because you can't coach someone if you aren't in your own way owning your mastery. And it's not about being perfect, right? But owning the mastery that life has been curating within you. And the more people just start trusting that, I see it over and over when I work with people. It's like, of course you're not seeing movement. Of course you're not seeing results. You're trying to deliver somebody else's mastery. And if you're trying to deliver somebody else's mastery, those people that are waiting for your services, your delivery, your coaching, your yes, can't find you.
Yeah. What would you say is your mastery, and how has it evolved since you first started coaching?
Oh, great question. So my own mastery, my first intention within all this was to really help be this reminder that we're not doing life alone, right? That we are being supported, guided. We're not doing life alone. So that was my coaching commitment, right? And then when you opened up to receiving, that literally the world just opened up to you, right? Because once you receive, and now it's about honoring the next step, the next step, the next step, and then just going from there. So for me as a coach, my role was to be that voice, right? That initial translator, so that you can also understand that you had your own ability to translate divine and source communication so that you can make it applicable in your life. So that's how I started. And this is another great question, why it's a great question, because we're destined to evolve. I'm still a student, and I'm going to continue to be a student until my last breath. Right. So I've moved into places and spaces that allow me to continue to grow, and it continues to evolve, So then my next phase, or the next biggest transmission, let's say, happened in 2020, when I was told that I was ready for the training that my whole life has been about, which I thought I was on it. Right. And then the voice said that what you're here to do, they're moving energy to this, because people don't recognize that as coach, you still need to be very committed to your process of evolution. You must, because the reality is that every client and every person that you connect with becomes your mentor. Mm-hmm. They too are helping you grow and become. And as you coach, guide, love them, it unlocks you. It leads you into the next level and into the next level. So each client is not just a client. They're part of your soul commitment. They're part of your soul contract, right? They're there to serve you as much as you're there to serve them. And that is a very powerful thing to recognize, because it changes a lot of things, by the way, at least from working with people in my own experience. But in 2020, they said, to serve and support kids that are sensitive and intuitive, and help them understand why they're here and that they're more than human. So then the evolution of that is that they weren't just talking about children. They were talking about that child within all of us, that were more than human. So my delivery, my intention, my conversations, my coaching has evolved into helping people know that we're more than human, right? That we are so designed to be more than human, right? And that when we own that, we understand that there's no limit to what can happen. There's no limit to finances. There's no limit to contribution. There's no limit to our work. There's no limit to what can happen, where we could travel to what we can heal within ourselves and within others. There's just no limits. So I've evolved into this expression, which has now offered itself into serving women, stepping into their feminine energies, moving to that, right? Because one of the things that I know, and I can respect and celebrate, that for all of us, we're part of a bigger movement. We're part of a bigger movement. We're not doing this for the I, we're doing this for the we. We're doing it for all of us. And the more we plug into that idea, that understanding, that recognition that we are serving a bigger movement, that literally it's exquisite, right? It's euphoric when we're in it. Mm-hmm. And especially as coaches. And the more we get to play in that field and in that vibration, it's as if another level of us becomes. And right now I work with men and women. I do work with both, but the events that have hosting here recently have been focused around women and women owning the feminine code. And I say women, it's like people who feel that their true nature is the feminine, right? So it's not just women. So it's like people who feel that their true nature is feminine.
Yeah. And what does a feminine superhuman, more than human, what is the gifts that get unlocked when someone gets to step into that fully?
So it's neat, right? Because I in no way I want to undervalue the idea or the concept of the masculine. Because we all have the masculine and the feminine. My voice is changing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, energy's moved up. Unfortunately, just like everything else, right, that has been given a label, that's been given an identity or a title, it has its limitations. And part of what's happening and what's unfolding is that there's a lot of, how do you want me to say it? They're saying ill information. I don't know if that's a word I want to use. I'm like, is there another word that we can use? There's just a lot of misconception about what a masculine and the feminine is. These are just labels that humans are trying to put, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Because at the event, we're talking about the feminine code just to call in certain people. But when we're at the event, it's an evolution of understanding that it's more than just the feminine, that there's these 7 aspects of the self for those who resonate with the nature of the feminine that we can embody, step into, so that we can become more available to the creative power that is inside of us. Literally like moving into these waves and fields of consciousness. You think of the Matrix, right? It's like that idea of like we're able to uncode and decode and actually give life form in a different way. And those that resonate with the feminine carry the womb. Literally this part of the physicality that is able to give life, right? Life out of nothing, life out of like literally make body parts out of just atoms coming together, like this alchemy, right? So when the feminine is really owned, we get to experience the true power of alchemy out of nothing. And I say out of nothing because it can't be seen really, but it is so tangible and palpable all around us. So within the feminine, you step into understanding the creative power, right? And what it really looks like and what it really, moves, what it really moves, how it really moves through the self, right? It's not just how it looks, how the experience of it. So we get to experience the creative power of this code. We get to experience the God code. And I know that's another deeper conversation, right? Because it's like, that is the creative power. We get to see the beautiful experience of sensuality and like how we've been designed in the feminine to be able to seduce, right? Instead of chasing, instead of going out, we can seduce all that is wanted, desired, and craved to us. We can pull it in, right? That we have the ability to be the sages, right? To channel infinite intelligence, from this beautiful, sacred feminine, sacred mother that allows all wisdom to be given, delivered. And it's like an anointing, right? Where people are like, wow, I don't know what was just said. I just felt it, right? Yeah. It's like that knowledge just gets downloaded. And then we have the ability to heal and transmute all things. So in the feminine, you have the ability to shapeshift into this consciousness that can really heal mentally, emotionally, and physically. So within the feminine, there's 7 aspects, and I just shared a little bit there. But within the feminine, there's these elements that can be awakened that unlocks us into seeing just why right now the movement that is being invited from all of us is to awaken more of the feminine, right? To awaken more in the feminine, which allows us to love in a different way, which allows us to experience compassion in a different way, which allows us to experience forgiveness in a different way, which allows us to deliver really creation in a different way instead of recreating and replaying a lot of this past, right? Thank you. I love that. Within the feminine, we're able to rise above karma, and that's why this is so important. I just got chills everywhere. Where we're at in humanity, where we're at in humanity, and I love how they're saying this, and I'm glad this is being recorded. It's the first time they're delivering it in this way, is that as a humanity, we have stepped into being able to rise, lead, create, and experience outside of karma. The masculine is grounded in karma. It uses karma to create, right? It uses a lot of the old to rebuild. Within the feminine, it's designed and destined to live outside of karma. It's designed
and to create
destined,
from nothing.
Yes. To literally have access to the ethers, and ethers be what defines what's possible versus the past.
Yeah. For people who are listening, will you tell us more specifically about the event that we're talking about? I mean, you're giving us like a really beautiful understanding of some of the principles, but tell me about like when it is, how people can get information, and what are some things that they can look forward to if they're able to join, because it's quite soon.
It is. It's actually on 11/11, November 11th and November 12th. It was intentionally on 11/11 because it is a very auspicious day of creation. And because so many people believe that, so many people around the world believe that there is this message, this coding that's guided, delivered, and inspired when you see 11/11. Most people do, or at least right now, that's where we're at collectively. It is a beautiful opportunity for us to ride that wave and add to that wave. And move into the state of creation. So part of what's going to happen on 11/11, 11/12 is that we're going to give the knowledge with this. And the thing that's fun is that, whether you join virtually or you join in person, there's a transmission that happens, right? It's like words are going to be heard, but things are going to be felt. And what's going to unfold is that the angels are going to meet us in this space, virtually or in person. And they're moving energy again, right? To help us get out of our own way.
Yeah.
To help us move into freedom beyond our mind, beyond our emotions, beyond the physicality that have kept us in a loop, that have kept us rewriting the same stories. And it's interesting because they're saying this so differently than I've shared in other places. But we're going to learn to move through life with more grace and ease, to be able to move through life with more peace outside of chaos, to move through life in ways that help us to know that we are more than human. And like this whole idea to move into a state of experiencing ourselves, our life, our future, our today, each other, outside of this field of pain, outside of this field of karma, outside of this field that has kept us stuck in the idea of doing an illusion, and move into a place that we could see what else is possible in this beingness that so much is being called to us, humanity-wise and individually. And this is coming out a lot deeper, and I'm not talking about the practical, which is interesting, but they're saying this is how it needs to be heard, apparently. For it could be you, Kimberly, or the audience. But with all of that, there are practical steps. There are practical experiences to this. One of the things that I know are being already witnessed, and part of what's going to happen is that when the feminine is owned, confidence becomes inevitable. Like just another level of competence takes place. Another level of leadership takes place. Leadership with your business, leadership with where you're at. Some of my girls are corporate or they're managers, whatever it may be, but you step into a different level of leadership. You step into a different level of leadership of leading your emotions, your mindset, your behavior, your actions, what you're creating, what you're saying yes to. It's like you just step into a different level of leadership, which is ruled under the idea of the queen. Right? You step into another practical experience of this is that you'll also find yourself being less triggered by the world, less triggered by those around you, less triggered by these stressors that once before would bog you down.
Yeah.
Right? You move into creativity. They're showing me the energy of creativity where it's like you get ideas, right? You get downloads because that's part of it. I'm going to be sharing what the angels are teaching around intuition. So you will be getting guidance and clear actions. So like, okay, what's the next step to take? What services should I do? What should I focus on? Or what else can I do with clients? What else is possible with me, with my relationships, with my intimacy, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the practicals. There are way more practical outcomes than that. But for some reason, I keep hearing that they want to really focus the conversation is about experiencing more of yourself and experiencing more of what's possible. And then understanding that that is what will inevitably happen after the experience is done.
It feels like that was selfishly said just in the way that I needed it to be said.
Oh, that's so funny.
And one of the things I want to share for anyone who's either not watching this on YouTube or who has never been in your presence virtually or in person is that, like, I shared with Emily before this interview, it's been a really tough few days. It's been a really tough transition period that I'm moving through. And yet there are cells in my body that I can hear waking up just by being in this space with you. And it's like you're just mirroring, not just, I remove that. You are mirroring back to me my own knowingness about what I'm capable of, what is possible, what I came here for. And yeah, I'm doing my best not to get emotional because it feels very big in my body, like this power that we all have access to, but that you as a coach are uniquely gifted in reminding us of. And so for anyone who's like, wow, I'm loving what Emily's putting down right now, we'll have information at the end of the episode of how you can get access to the event and to just more of Emily in general. And I think you're so thoughtful. We even have like a special discount code for people in the TA community. So definitely check that out. I'm of the mind now that I want to do whatever is necessary to get there. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. And I'm honored and grateful how auspiciously everything aligned for us to even talk today, right? So it's like, of course, it's always perfect timing. And I think that that's one of the things that I want to encourage all listeners is like, whether we can consciously understand it or not, what is needed always finds us in perfect timing. I'm getting emotional about this, right? Because a lot of times you're like, well, what if it doesn't happen? Or what if this doesn't unfold? Or what if? But we need to know that we are part of a co-creative experience where it's a must for you to be met. And it may not be the way you want it. It may not unfold the way you were hoping or thinking, but you will be met. And when you have that last breath and when you transition and whatever that happens, I understand there's some experiences that are tragic, which we're seeing on the, with the wars and all that. But when it does happen, there is this deliverance that occurs that you're like, that all made sense.
Yeah.
And I hear this all the time. You're like, I hope this is my last lifetime.
I literally thought that last night. I was like, feels like enough.
Yeah. But then we go back and then we're like, I can't believe I forgot that. And I forgot this. Oh my gosh, we did not meet in the physical. We got to go back. Let's do this again. Right? And this is the thing. It's like part of this game. And the thing that's exciting, and I don't remember when they said this, and I was just sharing this with someone yesterday. It's like humanity has been granted a different permission. And people are like, well, who granted us that permission? Well, there's many different ways that could be answered.
Yeah.
It includes our higher self, right?
Yeah.
But there is this permission that is now making things available to us beyond what we've seen before. Thoughts are more powerful than ever before. Yeah. Emotions and what it can lead us into are more powerful. If we knew what our emotions and our thoughts that merging can create, we would be so intentional. Right? We would be so attentive and intentional. And not only that, again, I mean, they just said something here that I'm like, I gotta create a video around this because it's so yummy. I've never heard them say this before. It's that we are at a phase in human experience, in this humanity experience, that we're getting off the karmic wheel. And the only way you stay there is if you just keep choosing it. You know, and it's like, what does that mean? If we're able to get outside the karmic wheel, is because we're able to create life, self, destiny, service at another level. So you coaches out there, you're not doing something that just whimsically you're like, oh, this sounds good. No, if it's been given to you, it's been given to you. And if it's not moving the way you want it to move, it's because you're being asked to think bigger, right? You're being asked to step into your mastery and stop trying to be somebody else's mastery. Because the only path and way to success is through your mastery. There's no other way. And we see it all the time. The people who are the most successful are the people who did it their way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Apple, great example.
Yes.
Yeah. In keeping with the idea that we are collectively getting off the karmic cycle and individually have the free will to do so, to choose out of our patterns, to choose out of our family systems, what do you say to people who seem to have an addiction to emotions that don't serve them?
That's a hard one. And this is why. Most people don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Right. And the duality within this conversation, or the irony in this conversation, or the paradox in this conversation, is that when people recognize that their addiction to an emotion, it changes. Right. Your recognition of something changes its pattern. Where that change can go, it's up to you, right? You can see it and notice it and decide it changes. It automatically changes. So it's kind of like that idea, that collision, right? You see it, you notice it, and it kind of goes in all directions. So now it's like a star. The collision happened. You became aware of the addiction. Now, where that collision goes depends on what you want to do with that acknowledgement. Because as humans, we fail to also acknowledge that we're also addicted to a lot of other beautiful emotions. And then we get focused on that addiction or that emotion that we don't feel is serving us. And then we freaking get in that wheel. Well, that's what I need to heal. Well, how about focusing your energy, your attention, your conversations into the other addictive emotions that are freaking delicious and giving you everything that you want, right? That. So for example, if I can use you, Kimberly, you have the addiction to passion, to joy, to play, right?
Yeah, that's accurate.
So why not focus on the fact that you have this amazing, beautiful addiction to that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To see the beauty of light, to love people. Gosh, one of the things about Kimberly is that she has such a big heart, right? So it's like, that's another thing, is that we move into these space. And then another thing that to add to this is like, if you recognize it, then you have to be freaking fair and be like, okay, yes, I have that. And I have this, and I have this, and I have this, and I have this. You know, it's like, we kind of get very narrow focused in one thing that isn't working or what isn't right with us when we fail to notice, gosh, we have so much that we deliver every day that we also have to, if we're going to take time to do this, then we need to be fair and take time to do all of this.
Yeah. And acknowledge the other parts of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that I would encourage everyone is that if there's a part of you that you're noticing that you're like, whether it's an addiction or a repeated pattern or repeated pain, it's not about trying to make it go away. This is the biggest mistake. I've done it. It's about looking at it. It's like, wow, how do I get to love this? Because the reality is we're seeking others to love those parts of us, of ourselves, when all that is seeking is to be loved by you. You know, and then the question, people are like, well, how do I do that? Well, if you don't know how to start loving that part of you, then take time to put it into a physical thing, right? So make it a physical thing. So let's say this pen is that, right? Let's just say, okay, that's it. So I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to put it in front of me, or like hold it or whatever it is, put it in my purse, whatever. I'm going to take you everywhere. And every time I see you, I'm going to say, I love you.
I love this.
Right?
Yeah. Totem.
Or even just saying, I choose to one of my favorite things is the Ho'oponopono prayer.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. So we did vows. Adam and I went to relationship with Tony Robbins, and that was very powerful. And we wrote vows to each other. And one of the things that I vowed to do is to do the Ho'oponopono prayer with him, and not with him, but like that I would take time to do the Ho'oponopono, to be the Ho'oponopono for myself and for him. So what does that mean? That you're going to take time to forgive those conscious and unconscious parts of you that did the best that was possible. The reality is
people what Ho'oponopono is.
Yes. So the Ho'oponopono prayer is, I love you. Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And the Ho'oponopono prayer, you can Google it. It is a Hawaiian prayer. And whether it originated here, I don't know. But the story where it got its impact, or its more global impact, let's say, was that there is, and I don't know if he was a minister, a preacher, or what it was, but he was assigned to work with one of the worst prisons in Hawaii. Very violent, very like the worst offenders were in this prison. And what he did is that he would hold their files and pray the Ho'oponopono prayer to that image and to that file for days. I don't know if he did 3 days a person or how he did it, but he would to focus and love the Ho'oponopono to that. That's all he did.
Yeah.
And he did it to all the inmates. And I can't remember if it was 2 years or so. It was like crazy time how everybody in that prison changed. Everyone, like miraculously changed. Yeah. And it was like the opportunity to look at someone or hold someone, especially yourself, into a place of compassion. Because on some level, there is a lot of pain in this reality that is associated and connected with the physicality of who we are, the human. But the thing that happens, and we need to recognize, is that when our soul looked from the other side and looked into this reality and said, oh my gosh, I get to transmute that pain. I get to forgive. I get to love. I get to do all of this. I get to do this. And literally we all decided, we're coming. I got it. I'm not going to forget. Bloop. We plop into this body and we forget. You know? And it's like
immediately.
Yeah. And it's like what happens is that all we are craving from each other is to be acknowledged that we're doing the best that we can. Right? To forgive ourselves and each other for how we failed and how we chose pain over love.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that angels have taught me since young is that the one thing that would lead to the quickest awakening, or anybody awakening like that, is true forgiveness. That's the quickest and fastest way into awakening. Right? Because through forgiveness, we surrender the karma, right? We let go of the karma, right? We choose
I feel like that's one of the main tenets of like Course in Miracles, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll be honest, everybody. I have not studied the Course in Miracles. I'm so sorry.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah. So I can't confirm, but I believe that would make sense to me. That would make sense.
Point being, it is a far-reaching concept coming from many different modalities and belief systems, and yet it's so simple and powerful.
Yeah. Even in Christianity, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're craving forgiveness, and that's how you become a Christian, right? So it's like that idea. It's like it is reinforced in many different ways. It's just different languaging, you know?
Yeah.
We're waiting for others to forgive us. And the reality that it first comes from us, it needs to come from us.
Yeah, 100%. Emily, if you could leave all of the aspiring coaches who are listening right now with one piece of encouragement or wisdom, what would it be?
So there's so many, but thank you. They're saying anointing. We need to all recognize that our thoughts are, anytime a thought is guiding us to be more than what we've been, anytime you get a thought to serve, to lead, to inspire, to help someone become even better, especially yourself, that's an anointed thought. That's something that's been given to you by a future version of you that knows it is done. Our role is to catch up to that reality, right? It's like we think, oh, I need to create it. No, your role is to catch up to it. It's done. It's happening. You're already serving all those people. You're already speaking and offering your gifts. You're already in your mastery. It's already done. Your role is to catch up to it. That's it.
Oh, can I share with you something that just stood out to me today, right along this vein? It's a graphic a woman in my new community here shared with a WhatsApp group. The new is already here. The old is just making a lot of noise dying. Eckhart Tolle.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
What was that? Is that a book you said, or?
No, it's just a quote. The new is already here.
God.
The old is just making a lot of noise dying.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it felt really poignant in this time of transition, and everything that you've shared so far is like the thought is just letting you know what the future is pulling you towards, not what you need to push to make reality.
Yes. And that's it. That's the thing that's so beautiful. Thank you. That's the feminine they just said, right? It's like all of us came here. We've all seen the future. We literally have seen a future that is not like the world we live in today. And that's why we all came, to bring that future to life. You know, that's why we're all here. And it's like, it's just you choosing that future. That future is calling you as much as you're calling it. And it's like moving into the dance now, right? Like, all right, how do I shimmy over there? How do I get there?
I love that. As you said that, I just had this vision of like a white light pouring down through my body. And it was just very like strong, but soft and grounded and supported and confident and knowing and trusting. And it was like all of these things that you said just kind of like infused that into my system. Yay. Really beautiful.
So good.
Where can people go find more of you and get information about what it is that you have to offer?
So to continue this conversation, you can find me at theangelcoach.com. That's the website, which is not my favorite place to find people. I love to connect with you in social because it gives me a chance to see you, see your faces, see what you're doing. So message and DM me at The Angel Coach, at The Angel Coach IG, TikTok, and Facebook. And YouTube, even though we have to do better. But yes, IG is probably the best because it gives me a chance to see your faces and follow, so you can learn more about what the angels are teaching and what we're being pulled into as well. And also those that feel inspired to explore the feminine event, check out myfemininecode.com, and you can go ahead and get access to the event. But again, if you connect with Kimberly, she has a discount that can help you get there at a discounted rate.
We'll put that in the show notes of the episode for sure. We'll include the discount code.
Yes. So that's the best way. Just connect with me with IG, and anything that you feel inspired to share or questions, just send them that way. And we will do our best to answer them as soon as we can.
And I want to echo that by saying, if you feel called to connect with Emily, do it. I found her on Clubhouse back when Clubhouse was a thing during the pandemic. And my whole life is different because of conversations we've had in a coaching container, and then the introduction that she made to Transformation Academy. So this episode right here literally wouldn't exist if I hadn't reached out to her on Clubhouse and formed a relationship. So DM her, get in her sphere. Benefit from her radiance and wisdom. And Emily, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To you and everyone who's listening live or in replay.
Bye. See what I mean? What a powerful and unique episode. Big thank you to Emily Rivera, the Angel Coach. And if you guys want to get more information about what we chatted about during tonight's interview, go to theprofitablecoach.com/018. There you'll see the special link with the 50% discount or you can head straight over to myfemininecode.com, and the discount code is Kimberly50 to receive 50% off of Emily's Feminine Code event on 11/11 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Again, all the show notes are at theprofitablecoach.com/018. And you can follow me on Instagram and send me a DM. Let me know what you thought of the episode at the Kimberly Rich on Instagram. Sending you guys big, big love, and thank you so much for tuning in.